Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Monday, June 30th, 2026. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. On today's episode, we'll hear from CNBC President K.C. Sullivan on how the preeminent financial news network is grappling with the onslaught of AI, the shifting distribution landscape for linear TV, and the increasingly multi-platform demands for its content. But before we get to all of that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. Netflix has renewed its crime drama series Nemesis for Season 2. The series hails from Courtney Kemp and Tani Marole, who are co-creators and co-showrunners. The Care Bears are moving to a new den. The cuddly cartoon Bruins, who were big stars in the 80s and 90s, have been acquired by Authentic Brands Group. That's the company that controls the likenesses of Marilyn Monroe and Muhammad Ali and works with other celebrities including Shaquille O'Neal and David Beckham. So look for a new burst of activity from the Care-a-Lot crowd very soon. Neon is closing in on acquiring Artificial, the Sam Altman movie from Luca Guadagnino that was dropped by Amazon MGM Studios. Andrew Garfield plays the OpenAI leader in the movie that focuses on the brief period in 2023 when Altman was ousted from the CEO job. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. And now it's time for conversations with industry leaders about news and trends in show business. Today my guest is K.C. Sullivan, president of CNBC. Sullivan was one of a number of conversations that I recorded last week during the Cannes Lion Festival. Cannes Lion was a heady environment and an incredible outpouring of discussion, analysis, and debate about some of the biggest issues facing media. Sullivan has been president of CNBC since 2022, and before that, he ran CNBC International, and he headed global advertising and partnerships for NBC Universal out of London. He has great perspective on the global media business. Here we talk about how CNBC is adapting to the new world of Versant Media, the spin-off of NBC Universal that took place earlier this year. And we talk about how CNBC is using new tools and new platforms to expand a business that has long been rooted in linear cable distribution. We recorded this at the busy Canva Creative Cabana installation on the beach in Cannes, so you'll hear a little hubbub of activity behind us. It's an audio snapshot of what it's like to be at Cannes Lion and have deep conversations on the fly. K.C. Sullivan, president of CNBC, thank you so much for taking time out of a busy Cannes Lion to talk to me.
Well, thank you for having me.
It is a busy Cannes Lion, it is a sweaty Cannes Lion, and that's very symbolic because so many aspects of the business world are being turned upside down by AI. At a place like Cannes Lion, you see where that disruption is going everywhere, in every sector. How that must make it a really challenging time to cover business. How is the CNBC team rising to that challenge?
Yeah, no, disruption is everywhere, and I think that that's an opportunity for us. I think it's an opportunity from an editorial coverage perspective. So we're able to, the amount of news flow is massive, whether it's the intersection between Washington and Wall Street and business, or AI disruption and that's disrupting all industries. The amount of content is massive, but also for our business and our ability to differentiate the content we have. I think there's a massive amount of commoditized content that's out there, but I think for trusted brands that are delivering differentiated content, which is what we think about every day, that's more and more important. And I think for us, we're focusing on making sure we get our content to our audience how and where they want that, because in years past, there were only a few places where content was consumed. Now there's been huge fragmentation of consumption, so you need to make sure that the content is getting delivered where and how that the audience wants it.
I'm a big consumer of CNBC, and one thing I've noticed as a viewer is that it feels like segments have gotten a little longer, a little more depth with AI, and just also different ways of communicating with your consumer. Yeah. What kind of skills, what kind of people have you had to bring on to meet that moment and reach people where they are for a brand that has rooted, like so much of TV, in linear distribution that is very challenged right now?
Culturally, we've needed to lean into the people who are embracing AI, and that's impacting every part of how we work. So the folks that are embracing it in the way they research, the journalists research, the way that we are, using it in the control rooms to help with, suggesting lower thirds. It's still a journalist who's always doing journalism. That's a foundational point for us. Is journalism should be done by journalists, but AI can support that and make us far more efficient. It's also helping us. Like these are things that we're working on now. But think about if AI could support live transcripting of our content. You take what is a differentiator for CNBC, which is the access and trust that our brand has, and if we can in real time be able to put that into digital text and then summarize that and deliver that personalized to you for when and how you want it, we've increased the utility of the CNBC brand, and those are the types of things that we're working on. So we're trying to make sure that we have the right people in the organization that want to lean into that and really see that that's where the future is that a brand like ours, AI is opening up great opportunities for us. And it's opportunities for us to really meet the needs and wants of the audience.
I can only imagine, given the depth and the amount of information in every earnings report, let alone a Fortune 500 company, the ability to analyze, to scan, to find patterns. Then, would you say, do you have more people behind the scenes crunching numbers in a data science type of way or analytical way than you did maybe 10 years ago?
The way that we think about analytics is greater, but the power of AI makes that a lot easier for us to be able to do. I think where the real important decision is what is commoditized content. So the ability to summarize a publicly made document, but that puts the premium on high quality journalism, on deep analytics, on perspective, around access. Those are things that can't be replicated by AI, and those are the things that we're leaning into. Those are the things we're investing in. The other thing is that with the fragmentation of consumption of media, we're focusing on being super serving audiences narrow and deep. So if you are highly passionate about wealth, Robert Frank is an incredible journalist and authoritative voice in that space. So investing in him and around him to make sure that we're super serving that audience in events, in more tailored communication to them through newsletters that are focused on that narrow audience, because that's where the heat and the loyalty of the audience really resides.
It's exhausting thinking about it, but it's got to be more, deeper, richer. You've got to bring that human element to it, because otherwise it can be done with a few ounces of compute power. My last question for you, Casey, is about Versant Media. Yeah. Obviously, CNBC and the other brands in that company, it's been an interesting process, I'm sure, for you. You're sort of a startup, but you have a really deep base and bench. What has just going through that separation from NBC Universal and kind of starting, not the brands, but starting with a new corporate entity, has that changed at all? Has that shaped your thinking about the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a totally different game for us. We're very much on the offense. We're hiring. We're looking at partnerships in a different way. We're looking at M&A in a different way. We have a very flat structure, so decision making happens quickly and with a lot of urgency. And that's been a really fun place to be. In an industry that's being highly disrupted, there are other media companies that are tightening the belt every quarter. We very much are trying to think about what's the next big win, what's the transformational win that we can do, and we have the resources to do it. We have the management and board support to do it. So that's just culturally, it's been an injection of excitement for the organization, and I'm excited. I care very deeply about our brand, and I love our brand and what we do for our audience, and for us to be able to put the investment and have a brand get the love that we're getting within the portfolio, I think is amazing. And then it's been really fun to work with the other brands across Versant. So like some of the things that we've done with golf has been really amazing. Our audience overlaps are huge, and for the ability to activate and do things with golf. We had Scott Wapner was just out at Shinnecock for the U.S. Open. Those type of brand overlaps is pretty amazing and fun to see us do.
I did a feature recently on USA Fencing. They're ramping up both for the sport and their PR game, and they really emphasized that they love their partnership with CNBC because there's a lot of C-suite types that really like to get in there and joust, and that just tickled me because it seemed a perfect match. Is that something, sports and those kind of like niche areas, is that something that you see growing for CNBC as you differentiate?
Yeah, I do think so. First, the business of sport has been a huge area of opportunity, and we've invested in that. Alex Sherman has taken an increased role there.
Big fan of Alex Sherman. Love his sports newsletter.
So we've invested in that, and that sports is an investable asset, and that has been that's our calling card, and it's really where there's a huge overlap. But then on our weekends, we have an opportunity to air sport that makes sense for our audience. There is a high overlap of audience of people who love sport, particularly some of those high-end sports, with our affluent audience. We've also got a very cool relationship with USA Sports around the WNBA. So we're simulcasting WNBA games, and women's sports is something that we think that there's a huge growth opportunity. When you talk to investors, there's a ton of money flowing into women's sports. So that's another area that we're super excited about.
That's been, I think, a really interesting strategic decision to go in this area. Casey Sullivan, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you toughing it out here in a slightly muggy green room.
Thank you for that, and thanks for having me.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. Don't miss our Best Movies of the Year So Far list from Owen Gleiberman and Guy Lodge. 10 titles get the nod of approval from Variety's chief film critics. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are scheduled to say I do on Friday, and Friday will be a big day for another Taylor in entertainment. Taylor Sheridan's Dutton Ranch series will have its first season finale on Paramount+. Both will be momentous occasions, no doubt. We love to hear from our listeners, so please send thoughts, gripes, and other feedback about Daily Variety to podcasts@variety.com. Before we go, congrats to Ted Danson, Sheila Nevins, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, Ted Sarandos, and Gene Smart. They're all being inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame. The late 60 Minutes correspondent Ed Bradley will also be posthumously inducted. The ceremony will be held August 13th as the kickoff to the Television Academy's Televerse Emmy FYC event. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton. Stick, snicks, hick, picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and don't forget to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.